Hello everyone, Ill Productions is back again with a new video, and today we are going to cover question and answers of class 6 chapter 2. Before moving ahead with the chapter, I would just like to discuss the quick summary of this particular chapter. Okay, what this chapter was all about, which we have already covered in a previous video. Okay, if you haven't watched the full video, you can watch it on my channel. All right, so let's discuss this particular chapter quickly. So, around 2 million years ago, people used to hunt and gather only as far as the way of acquiring food was concerned. However, they did not use to grow the food or grow the crops and like we do today in terms of agriculture and farming. Okay, they were doing it just for the sake of acquiring the and they also used to hunt animals and they used to rear the animals and they used to travel from one place to another and there were various reasons why they used to travel from one place to another. Okay, the first reason was that the resources would become very limited if they would continue to use the material of one place. And secondly, they also depended on animals because they used to hunt animals so, and since the animals used to move from one place to another, so they also have to move from one place to another. Thirdly, water is very, very essential. And in order to have the water and the supply of water, they have to be around the lakes and the rivers and the streams. And that is why the whole settlement was along the banks of the various rivers, as we have seen in the previous chapters, like Narmada and Ganga and various tributaries. All right. So there has been various things that has been found which also suggest how people were hunter and gatherers. We have found their stones and woods and bones and which tells the lifestyle of the earliest of the people. And these stone tools, they were used for various purposes. And there were wood also. Wood was used as a fire and wood was also used for making huts and also they used to search for a place where sufficient availability of stone, woods and foods was present and they used to move there. However, 12,000 years ago, what happened was a change in the climatic condition happened and the weather became warmer and because of that the grasslands were developed and since this grassland developed, the number of animals like deer, goats, sheep, and cattle they also increased. Okay, and now people started to learn about the animals' food habits and their breeding seasons, so that they can follow. It, okay, and fishing was also a very popular activity. Moving ahead. Now, uh, talking about the farming and herding, so various grain-bearing grasses actually they grew naturally on the subcontinent, like wheat, barley, and rice. So these grains were being selected normally by women and children, and they tried to make themselves more familiar about the ins and outs of the basic farming. Okay, so in this way, the men slowly and gradually they became farmers. Also, they used to tame animals. Okay, and the very first animal that was domesticated by men was dog. Later, they started to domesticate various other animals as well, like sheep, goat, cattle. Okay, so in this way, men actually slowly and gradually started the herding. Okay, then a new kind of an era kind of started because people started to grow food grains, so they have to store it somewhere. So they started to make clay pots, woven baskets, or duck feet, okay, so that they can store them. Also, the animal products were there. People used to use tame the animal or rear the animal, and the animals like cows, goats, and cattle they provided milk and meat and milk was very a kind of a major source of food at that time. And the plants and animal bones that has been recovered by the scientists, it also confirms this fact that people started to settle in one place and they used to do farming and they used to be herders. Okay, and one of the major sources of for archaeologists was the remains of the burnt grain has been found. Okay, this suggests that people used to live at one place in one place and used to grow their crops and live there. Okay. Also, traces of huts have been found, houses have been found in different parts of the subcontinent, along with cooking here. So it all suggests that people started to have a sedentary kind of a lifestyle, and the stone tools that were being used over the period of time also changed. Like in Paleolithic age, the stone tools that were used were very not very sharp, okay, and not very cutting edge. However, later in the Neolithic age, the stone tools that were used by the people were very polished, and it gave a very accurate kind of an edge was there in those tools. However, it was not that people completely abandoned the use of the Paleolithic stone tools. They continued using that as well. Okay. And in this time, people began to know about the cotton, and they used now um, cotton to weave their clothes. Okay. Moving ahead. So as we have seen that various tools have been found like wood and stone and bone, which of that period of time. And these tools were used for hunting purposes and to chop meat, also sometimes making clothes out of animal fur and chop plants. Okay. And these resources have mostly been found around the water bodies or caves, because this was the area that had more stones for them to make tools out of it. Okay. And traces of ashes have also been discovered, which probably which probably suggests that um, people started to use fire, and fire was probably used for various purposes like scaring away the animals, for keeping their houses warm in winter season, and also to cook the food. Okay, moving ahead. So people started to have a very settled kind of lifestyle. Now let's talk about a place called Mehergarh. So Mehergarh was actually the first place where people started to farm and grow crops on a proper scale. And also in this particular location, a different animal was reared for the very first time. Crops like barley, rice, animals like goats and sheep. Okay, and a different kind of a ritual was followed in this particular place called Mehergarh. Because people, they believed in an afterlife, and when they used to bury the body, they used to bury the body with the belongings of the person. Like, so one of the evidence has been found, which shows that a burial was there along with the. Okay, so there has been lots of burial sites of such has been found in various places, and the houses that were found in this Mehergarh location were in cubicle shape. All right, moving ahead with the question. So the very first is, we have to complete the sentences. Hunter-gatherers choose to live in caves and rock shelters because obviously they want to protect themselves. That is why they used to live there. And protect themselves from what? From wild animals and from bad weather. Grassland developed around 12,000 because weather conditions started to change around this time. Early people painted on the walls of the cave. Okay, we have seen in the previous chapters how in the Ajanta is one of such famous cave where we see lots of wall painting. In Huntsville, tools were made of limestone. All right, moving on. So there are states, Bhimbetka, Hunsi, and Kumul are located. We have to find where they are located. Okay, so Bhimbetka is in Madhya Pradesh, Hunsi in Karnataka, Kumul in Andhra Pradesh. All right. Then the next question is, why did hunter-gatherers they used to travel from one place to another, and in what ways are these similar to or different from the reasons from which we travel to? So we have just read that we used to travel from one place to another in search of food. Okay, in to follow the movement of the animal, to get the supply of the water. Okay, also the plants and trees, they bear fruits in different seasons, so when the season change, people also have to move. And how we are different, so we move from one place to another in search of education, in order to work, in order to do our business, in order to be in the entertainment. Okay. We go for entertaining ourselves, like we go to circus or zoo or sightseeing. So these are the purposes we move from one place. All right, moving ahead. So what tools would you use today for cutting fruit? What would they be made of? We use knives today, and these are made of iron and steel. Then the three ways in which hunter-gatherers use fire. Would you use fire for any of these purposes today? So they use fire for the source of light. They use fire to scare away the wild animals. They use the fire to keep their houses warm. They use fire to cook meat. Okay, and today also we also use fire. Okay, we and sometimes people today use fire for cremation purpose to burn the dead bodies. All right, then we have to make a column and we have to find a difference between the food that the early men used to eat and the food that is eaten by us as a modern men. So people used to as a hunter gatherer, they used to gather the fruits, collect fruits, roots, nuts, seeds, leaves, stalks, eggs, and meat. And however, today we mostly eat processed food, okay, and we eat cooked food. However, the earlier people used to eat raw food, all right. Then the next question is, if you had a natural pebble like the one shown on page 13 in the textbook, what would you use it? So the pebble can be used for various purposes, and the earlier men used pebble for cutting meats and bone, to scrape the bark of the trees, okay, to chop fruits and roots. And sometimes they also used to attach the stones with the bones or the wood, and they made a weapon like spears and arrows so that they can hunt. Also, other times the tools was used for chopping the wood, and this wood was used as firewood as well. Okay, then we have to find the tasks that are being performed only by men and that which are performed by women. Okay, and we have to compare the list. So the two tasks that both men and women do is teaching, and both men and women go to office jobs. Okay. However, the only task that is being done by men is mining and working in a shipyard. Two tasks that are performed only by women is nursing and looking after home and home. However, today most of the men also look after home. There are also men nurses. Okay, brothers are there in the hospital. So um, however, the majority of the gender which does that task is we have defined on the basis of that. All right, I hope it's clear. So that's it. So thank you so much for listening to me very patiently. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, and please do not forget to subscribe.